Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to our /PettyRevenge, where people get revenge on those who've wronged them, and the stories are so satisfying and often pretty funny. And today's lineup is awesome, guys. We've got workplace idiots, school bullies, and nasty Karens all getting taught lessons they'll never forget. So sit back, relax, and seriously, try not to shake your heads too hard in this one. Let's dive in. I work for an IT company that does tech support. We receive calls for help and we try to help. So this one guy calls up asking for help to remove a piece of software that required administrator rights, which is pretty standard, nothing special. However, the computer he's requesting help with was his own personal computer. Obviously, we don't have any access or control over a random person's computer. I have zero way I can help him without the admin account, and he says he doesn't know the account. The software was some kind of parental management software that restricts him from doing things. This guy's in his early 20s, and I know this because we can see the details of the people that call us on our system. So it's kind of hilarious that he has this software installed. Anyway, after I tell him that I can't help him, he ends up telling me that I work for a stupid trash company, that I'm basically useless, and I should go end my life. Now that's the PG version for you guys. I don't even respond, and the guy hangs up the phone. Now obviously, the calls are recorded, and nothing would have happened if I didn't bring attention to it. But that day, the way the guy talked to me kind of pissed me off, and I thought I'm not going to ignore what just happened. I'm going to get petty with this guy. So I tell my manager the story, and he listens to the phone call. My manager then calls the liaison for the company he called from. They find out that this guy's an intern at the company. Long story short, he no longer works for the company, and during the call, they decide to get the CEO on the phone and tell him what happened. Shortly after that call, the CEO lets us know that he called the university that the guy's currently going to. The university's now dropped him from all of his classes. So now, the guy's lost his intern job and also lost his placement in university, all because he told me to end myself on the phone. What a petty revenge gone nuclear, in my opinion. And we can all probably see why the guy has parental locks on now, right? But yeah, what a fallout that was, guys. Ruining your life with one sentence. And this next Karen gives OP the middle finger repeatedly, and he decides to do something about it. It also doesn't end well for her. So I live in a small neighborhood with maybe 20 total homes. Each home has about 50 plus feet of road frontage, 3 plus car garages, and large driveways, and parking is permitted on both sides of the street. As such, there's never a reason to park in front of a home that's not yours / you're not visiting unless there's some sort of event. Most neighbors are friendly and they know each other. So in the time I've lived there, parking's never been an issue until last month. Last month, a neighbor from the far end of the development started parking daily and overnight in the smack dab middle of our property's road frontage. I just thought to myself, odd, but maybe she's having work done on her driveway and she wants to park really far away from the fumes. I don't know, things happen, not a big deal. But after 5 nights of this, I'm getting a little fed up. The yard guys can't cut the grass where her car's located, and deliveries of large items are postponed because they can't get up our driveway without the extra turning radius. So I leave a note, I know, on her windshield. It's just a quick note explaining that normally this would be a non-issue. But we have some deliveries coming, and it would really help us if she could move her car back to her home this week. And for clarity, the note did not ask her to move permanently, but we asked if she could move temporarily for a day or two so we could mow without getting grass on her car and delivery drivers could get into the driveway. There was no response, but that note's gone the next morning. The car's still there, and the other neighbor texts us saying, "Hey OP, you might want to watch out for our mean neighbor. She started cussing me out for a note that was left on her windshield, and she said it's public property, so she can park there as much as she wants." I just thought, that's not cool. But since I don't want to pick a fight, what's there to be done? The next time she moves her car, I pull my own in front of my house. And this doesn't make her happy. She spends the next few days flipping off my Ring doorbell from the street. And she's leaving notes on my car that are never threatening, but they're never kind. It would say something like, "F you, you idiot." At this point, it's game on. And I do want to add, I didn't get revenge for her parking in an obviously public place as explained, but for her flipping me off, cursing me out, and leaving cruel notes on my car when we parked in front of our own home. It didn't take much digging to realize there were regularly unusual out-of-state cars parked at her actual home, and even less digging to find that her home's listed on Airbnb for way more per night than her entire mortgage. So I make a quick few calls to the county, and wouldn't you know it, Airbnb and short-term rentals are completely forbidden, no exceptions in our neighborhood. On top of that, the county zoning commissioner finds out that she's been renting out her home for almost half a decade, and each rental violation equates to a $250 fine. And you can do the math. I'm not sure what happened after, but we do know for sure that she received a court order of some sort, and more importantly, she stopped parking in front of our house. I guess she had to find a job that didn't include flipping people off all day. Listen, what a rookie mistake that was, and I hope she realized that by messing with OP, she not only ruined her little secondary income stream, but she's also in big, big trouble. And guys, the moral of the story here is if you're doing something illegal, it's best not to draw attention to yourself because you never know who will do something about it. And this person says, if you want to up the ante, I bet she hasn't been reporting that B&B income to our friends at the IRS. I believe they have a hotline for that sort of thing. I'm just saying. All through middle school, there was this one girl who was several years older than me, who rode my bus, who really had it out for my Japanese family. Every morning, when my 5 siblings and I would get on the bus, she would start yelling at us from the back of the bus saying, "Hey, it's the Asians," and other random meaningless crap. She would taunt us, goad us, and make fun of us for literally no reason. The same things would happen in the hallways if we ever had the misfortune of running into her. Once, we talked to our mom about it, and she was like, "Oh, you mean that girl? The one who makes really ugly faces at me every time the bus pulls up." So that said, years went on, and I finally started high school, and somehow I end up hanging out with a bunch of senior girls all the time. Not because of any merit, but because I was small and lonely, they took me under their wing. It wasn't a bad time, and thanks to these kind girls, I had forgotten about the pig girl, as my mom called her. Well, one day, one of the nice girls who sits with us at lunch brings someone new with her, saying the senior girl had no place to sit and she wanted to be friends. And what do you know, it's good old pig girl. And looking back, I wish I had been nice and understanding. She was probably just taking out pent-up emotions from being lonely and having family problems on us easy targets like my family and small people. But alas, I didn't. When Pig Girl was introduced to us, I put on a really nice and welcoming act, knowing I had her in the palm of my hand. I immediately said something along the lines of, "Hi, do you remember me from the bus?" She responded uncomfortably, and then I had her sit next to me. I then struck up a jovial conversation with the entire table about how much Pig Girl had bullied my family and I, laughing about it as if it was some sort of funny story from the past. All of the nice girls were trying to smile and go along with the joke, but they were obviously uncomfortable. They were shooting odd looks at this newcomer. Pig Girl, on the other hand, looked like she was sitting on hot coals. After telling my quote funny story and expressing how much of a living hell this girl had made middle school for me, I finally hit her with LOL, but anyways, why would you do that to my family and I? What did we ever do to you? I said that with the biggest, nicest smile I could muster. Pig girl just sputtered. I heard her try to squeal something about, well, there was just so many of you coming onto the bus and a bunch of other BS. But I just interrupted her and said, oh, I gotta get to my next class a bit early, and took off, leaving the most uncomfortable silence I've ever seen. Needless to say, the group I hung out with did not take kindly to that, and Pig Girl did not join our lunch table after that. And this is why I always say that you should be kind to others, because karma's not always quick, but it will come around. And how satisfying was that? I just love that OP got to get back at Pig Girl in the end with a savage petty revenge. And this OP also shares their little savage revenge on their grandmother. I was raised by my abusive grandparents. My grandfather isn't worth mentioning, and my grandmother died when I was 15. She had an aneurysm while on the toilet, dying with the same grace she had while alive. I'm in my mid-30s now, and I often don't think of her, but I do keep one small petty habit. My grandmother was a seamstress, and her most prized possession was a pair of super sharp, super expensive dressmaking shears. I once used them to cut paper, and she made me sleep on the porch for a week. And for those who have said that this seems like a random punishment, she was abusive. If I was gonna be an animal, then I should be, quote, treated like an animal and sleep outside. It wasn't about the scissors, it was about me existing in her line of sight when she wanted to lash out. When she died, one of the few things I asked for were those scissors. I've used them to cut everything but fabric for the last 2 decades. I used them in the kitchen, for crafts, for projects around the house. The other day, I used them as a hammer when I was too lazy to go grab my toolbox. And I know it's stupid and petty, but nothing beats the tiny spark of malicious glee that I feel every single time I use those stupid scissors to cut duct tape and then pry open a paint can. So here's to you, Nana. I hope you went to heaven, because I know there's nothing you hated more than the happiness of others. Edit. It's been about 20 years since she died. I've had a lot of therapy, become a part of a loving family, and I have a wonderful, interesting life. The best revenge I could have. I still have the odd time when childhood trauma raises its ugly head. But even my worst days are happier than any day when she was alive. Those scissors are something that makes me laugh and is a good reminder that she can't actually hurt me anymore. Thank you for all the warm wishes, and be good to each other, and may all of you have health, happiness, and the occasional joy of petty revenge. I just love how OP gets so much joy out of using those scissors on a day-to-day basis. Like, that is petty revenge that just keeps on going. And one of the top comments of this post says, well, she's in hell now because you effing roasted her. And since we're on the topic of the more savage revenges, let's keep it going. This OP says, so about 6 years ago, my former partner of 6 years and I broke up. And I started to realize all the things I had normalized were actually abuse. Instances of gaslighting were all too prevalent, and even one instance where she gaslit me about what gaslighting even was. There was also financial control. She could spend what she wanted, but I had to ask for permission, and she even limited time that I spent with my family and my best friends. There was more, but that's enough of that. After we broke up, I realized that money I continued to place in our joint account wasn't even going to the mortgage as promised. It was going to shopping, paying for her new boyfriend, and payments to her lawyer. When I found this out, I called the finance company handling our mortgage, and I told them I would no longer be making payments. I told them that they could seize the house if they wanted, but my half of the payments would cease immediately until I recouped the money stolen, roughly 5 months worth of payments. They said I couldn't do that, and I told them to watch me. Soon after that, when the debt letter started, the texts, phone calls, and voicemails from her started, to which I ignored every one. 2 months in, I hear her car broke down badly because she couldn't afford to maintain it. Not long after that, she filed for bankruptcy. A month later, she moved out and I got my house back. I cleaned it up, changed the locks, got my mortgage back on track, and recently, my wife and I sold it for a tiny little profit. She got nothing, not a dollar, not a dime. She still has no usable credit rating, and my wife and I are debt-free with a deposit on our new home. Life feels good. So this story is all about the owner and his personal assistant. I was salary, and as such, I was allowed to come in a bit late sometimes and leave early when you let HR know. It was never a concern for anyone but the owner, who was only in the state 2 days a week. HR asked us to send an email if we're gonna be late and to list why. Not to be disciplined, but just to let them know. And this wasn't a problem for me. That said, the personal assistant is supposed to be on site at 8 a.m. with the rest of the office staff, which includes me, finance, and the personal assistant. But the personal assistant was almost never there at 8 o'clock. So it was up to me to unlock the building since finance didn't have a key. I also want to add, if we're late by like 5 minutes, we didn't need to send an email. It's only if we're gonna be more than a few minutes behind. Well, one time, I was about 10 minutes late and I emailed HR lady to let her know I was gonna be late. She said that's fine, as personal assistant was already there. So I arrive about 10 minutes late and I was doing my work. And that's when I receive an email from the owner saying that I need to be on time every single day. That my schedule is 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Monday to Friday. Now, this was an odd email, so I went to the HR lady who I'm very good friends with. I asked her if she told the owner, and she said no. Considering that HR was the only person I told I was gonna be late, I knew it had to be the personal assistant since finance was off that day. Plus, he was a chill guy. He avoided confrontation when possible. So me and HR wanted to see what the owner had the personal assistant doing for him. We didn't like her to begin with, and we didn't trust her. HR said to come in late the next day by 30 minutes and not say a single thing. So I came in 30 minutes late, and again, I received an email, but this time tagged to HR as well. Me and HR disregard the email, and a few days pass, and personal assistant doesn't come in until 9:30. So I ask her where she was, and she doesn't communicate to me or HR that she wasn't gonna be at the office at 8 a.m. She said, that's none of my business. I don't need to know. And that wasn't the correct answer. I decided to get some petty revenge on her. So over the next month, I keep a tally of every time she was late and what time she came in and left, as she's salary as well. I sent a good 20 late or early departures to HR, and she wasn't happy about this data. So me and the personal assistant get pulled into the HR office, and HR lets me confront her about her emails and her time punches. She just shrugged us off, saying she's protected by the owner, in her words. Now, this did not sit well with me. The point that pushed me off the edge was I had a call to take care of at 8 a.m. I communicated this last night to personal assistant and HR and finance. Personal assistant said that she would be there. At 9:30, finance calls me and asked if I'm gonna be coming in soon. I told him yes, and he told me that personal assistant wasn't there yet and HR's not gonna be there until 10. Needless to say, I was pissed. Of course, nothing happened to personal assistant. So the next time she was late to come in with no notice, I emailed everyone. The office staff, the owner, HR, all the district managers, all the assistant district managers to call out personal assistant and her practices. There was a big meeting being held that day anyways, and all the district managers talked to me about the email. Turns out, personal assistant got a write-up for all the late time, and I could hear her crying in the office. The owner didn't confront me either, as I had, in a way, called him out on his practices in front of his district managers as well. So this is a bit of a long one, but I promise it's worth it. My boyfriend, 36, and I, 30, had been together for almost a year when this happened. Our relationship was genuinely good. We got along well, laughed a lot, and we didn't really fight over stupid things. There was only one issue, a female friend of his, who I'll call Tammy, who's 30 years old. Now, to this day, I still don't fully know what her motivation was. My guess is she didn't like that he was serious about someone else. She was also friends with his ex, so I've always suspected that she was sabotaging us on purpose. They had been broken up for 6 to 8 months before we started seeing each other. The weird part is Tammy and I actually became close. I liked her, which is probably why I ignored my gut instinct for so long. Whenever it's just the two of us, she would tell me things that my boyfriend supposedly said. Like, I don't think he's over his ex. He told me that. Just little comments that planted insecurity in my head. Around the same time, my boyfriend starts acting differently towards me, and our relationship suddenly had trust issues. One time, Tammy got annoyed because he didn't want to stay out drinking with her, and instead wanted to come home and hang out with me. I thought that was weird, but I brushed it off. Things then grew tense between my friend group and theirs. My friends had said they don't like her and I should talk to my boyfriend about some of the things she was saying. But I didn't want to be one of those controlling people who told their partner they can't be friends with girls. One night, I went out drinking with Tammy. At some point, I blacked out completely. I barely remember anything. I remember Tammy driving, and I remember some guy she said she knew being around. The next thing, I remember waking up in my own apartment, in my own bed next to that guy, with Tammy walking into the room angry. And before anyone jumps to conclusions, we were both fully clothed and on top of the covers. Not that it excuses anything at all, but pause before you jump down my throat. So this guy who I'll call Peter told me I had been really sick, throwing up, and that Tammy had basically ditched him there with me. He said he was too drunk to drive, and she was also really drunk and shouldn't have been driving. He didn't want to leave me alone because I was in bad shape. I'm also a type 1 diabetic, and he knew that, so he said he stayed because he was genuinely worried about me. I told him he probably should have called an ambulance, but I was thankful to have not been left alone. But I was upset that my friend put me in a terrible situation where so many things could have gone wrong. After he left, I was so sick, I ended up going to the hospital. I tried multiple times to call my boyfriend, who didn't answer his phone. I then checked my call logs, and I also called him a few times last night, but he was likely sleeping. It also took me forever to even find my phone, and it was in a really weird place in a drawer. And after reflecting over several days, I came to the conclusion that she likely hid it on purpose. When I got home, my boyfriend had put all my stuff outside my door, and he blocked me on everything. Eventually, I got a hold of him, and I told him I genuinely feel like I'd been drugged, and I had no clue what happened that night. Tammy already told him that I was all over Peter, and that I slept with him, and neither of those things happened. I was furious. It was right then and there that I knew she obviously set me up, perhaps even drugged me. I just couldn't prove it. So I started piecing the whole night together. I went back to the bar and I talked to the bartender who I knew. I asked what he saw, who I talked to, everything. I then talked to Peter, who confirmed nothing happened between us. He told me that Tammy was acting weird all night, and when I started throwing up, she basically left me there with him, a man I didn't know. And he stayed because he didn't know if he should call an ambulance and he didn't want to leave me alone. Apparently, Tammy came back later to quote, check on me, which also meant she drove home drunk and then drove back drunk. so she left and then came back. The more people I talked to, the less Tammy's version even made sense. Meanwhile, Tammy was telling me a different story, and she was insisting that she only told my boyfriend what she saw. She saw Peter and I in bed together, and she wasn't going to lie to him. My boyfriend broke up with me anyway, and I do get it. The situation sucks, and he's gonna believe his best friend of several years over me. At that point, I decided that even if we never got back together, I wasn't gonna let this girl ruin my reputation and walk away clean. So I pretended that everything was fine. I stayed friendly with Tammy, and I acted normal because I wanted her to get comfortable and to keep talking. Eventually, I convinced my boyfriend to give us another shot. We start talking and hanging out again. The second that happened, Tammy starts acting really weird. The first day I went over there, she saw me on the doorbell camera and immediately texted him asking why I was there. I saw the text. That led to my boyfriend and I arguing, and a bunch of inconsistencies started coming out. Things she had told him about me, and things she had told me about him. He started realizing that she must have been playing both sides. But he still wasn't fully convinced that she would have gone as far as to put something in my drink, and that likely I drank way too much. So I decided I needed proof. When Tammy got home, I asked my boyfriend to give us some privacy and leave. I put my phone on record and I calmly confronted her. There was no yelling, no drama. I just asked her to tell me what happened and to explain her version of everything. She started with the same story that she'd been telling, but then she started backtracking. Details changed, her whole story shifted, and she contradicted herself multiple times. I told her that I knew she was lying to people, and people told me specific details, and I don't want to be friends with her anymore. And here's the part that makes me laugh now. I didn't tell my boyfriend I recorded her. I wanted to see what she would tell him happened during our conversation first. My thinking was, if she lied about a conversation that I literally have proof of, then I could prove she lied about everything else too. And that's exactly what happened. Tammy told him that I threatened her. She said that I told her that I would punch her out if she didn't change her story to my events and my version of the story. That she was scared for her safety. I told him that was completely untrue, but he didn't believe me. Instead, he told me Tammy didn't feel safe having me at the house, so if he and I were gonna keep hanging out, it had to be at my place. He said he was planning on moving soon as he secured another place. He had faith in me, but things had gotten way too dramatic. He wanted to distance himself from her anyways. I was honestly offended, but I also understand why he was conflicted. He had been friends with her for over 7 years, and one of the reasons I loved him was because he was so fiercely loyal to the people he cared about. We had also been friends before dating, so I knew what kind of person he was. I wasn't going to let her win, so I just let Tammy keep talking. I let her spread her version of the events to a friends group for about 2 weeks. Then, once I heard her latest lie through someone else, I knew it was time. I sat my boyfriend down and I played the recording. He was completely shocked. He's already stopped trusting her, but this was next level. He was sick over the fact that she had lied so much and manipulated both of us and potentially damaged the best relationship he had ever had. He moved out immediately and he stayed at my place until he found another rental. We told the friend group that I recorded her and she lied about everything. And the funniest part is after all of that, Tammy did absolutely nothing. She didn't defend herself, she didn't respond to the messages, she didn't even try to fight it. She just moved and she stopped talking to everyone in the group. She basically disappeared. She embarrassed herself so badly that she removed herself. And the best ending is my boyfriend and I just celebrated 4 years together and we have a genuinely happy life now. What a mess that was, guys, and I'm just glad Opie ended up with her boyfriend in the end and is happy. That's all that matters, right? And I'm only saying that because so many people in the comments of this post seem to think that Opie should have left the guy. There are comments saying, "It's wild that your boyfriend basically trusted her more than he trusted you, and you viewed that as a quote, good thing." But yeah, I know it's not an am I the a-hole post, but guys, let me know what you think. And the top comment of this post, with over 4,000 upvotes, says, "I know her type way too well. She didn't leave because she was embarrassed. She left because everyone saw her mask slip and she couldn't manipulate them anymore. I think if you asked around, you might be surprised by how many people she owes money to." And with that brings us to another end of r/PettyRevenge. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/entitled People episode, where it's all about cheating Karens getting exactly what they deserve. They're ruining their own lives. Go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.